So, you're looking for help with your mortgage. Worried about foreclosure?
We can help you keep your house. All we ask for in return is that you submit to our plans for galactic domination. Sign.
If you're facing foreclosure, talk to the right people. Speak with HUD-approved housing counselors free of charge at 888-995-HOPE.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen, a weekly program on LSN Television, Channel 9, Time Warner, right here in Lancaster, and also on 90.9 WFCO Radio. And been on the radio for about 11 of my 12 years as sheriff, and we started the television programs about 6-7 months ago, so it's really been a great partnership. And do appreciate the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that produce and put this program together each and every week. And certainly to you, the viewers and listeners, over the course of every month or so, I will get a lot of nice comments. People say they tuned in and they've certainly learned a lot about things going on within the Fairfield County Sheriff's and beyond. This week, back by popular demand, is Deputy John Baumgardt with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, a 27-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office, and the senior deputy, right?
Yep.
Has more time on than any of the other deputies in the Sheriff's Office, so I think that speaks volumes, and we appreciate your steadfastness all these years. And, you know, you look back on 27 years, what's some of the biggest things that have changed during that time period?
Well, probably one of the first things was when they revised the Ohio Code in the early 90s. It really kind of put a monkey wrench in the works for some of the things, but it's a constant battle. I think that the Supreme Court's made some decisions. It's not popular with everybody, but most of the ones I've seen, I think, have been really the right thing to do, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And that, to me, is a big thing. Is, you know, sometimes people look at it, it's not necessarily the right thing to do, but that's what I try to do, and I strive to do.
Yeah. Now, you're involved with the sexual registrants. They come in, they report to you, some monthly, some yearly, different time periods depending on the nature of the offense.
Okay, yeah, it's either once a year, twice a year, or 4 times a year.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for about 12 years.
12 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you probably have more information about that than anybody in the state of Ohio, don't you? Well, do you have some group or some individuals that have been reporting to you about that long?
We actually, the sex offender registration people have a group that Sheriff Gray from Mercer County started that gives us input in the software and some of the things. And we also, through the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, work with their legislative people to make changes, or we tell them if we feel that that's not a good thing. So it gives us a little bit of input too.
Now, for the folks that may have missed last week's program, tell us a little bit about what the procedures are, or the laws in Ohio in regard to someone that is convicted of a sexual offense. What kind of responsibilities do they have once they are convicted?
Okay. Once they're convicted, if they have a requirement to register, it's either, again, once a year, twice a year, or 4 times a year. Depending on how long ago it was, they may or may not have requirements to not be living within 1,000 feet of school or daycare center. Those things are different times also. But they do have to come in and register anytime that they change addresses. They have to register anytime they change vehicles, schools, just there's a lot of things. It wants information about if they have internet access, what their emails are. it's gradually progressed to different information. When I first started doing it, we had no place to put aliases. So if someone used more than one name, we either had to register them with each of the names, which created a major problem, or work to get something done, which is what we did. That was one of the first things that we did, was get also known as information that we were able to put in.
So within Fairfield County, I think you mentioned there's about 110 offenders that report to you.
120.
120, okay, 120 that report to you. And over the 12 years, you've had over 500 different individuals that have reported to you during that period,
yes,
off and on.
Right.
Now, I guess, what's the biggest thing that kind of surprised you about dealing with these individuals? Because I think many times what we think is that some kind of guy with an overcoat on, he's lurking by the playground, and there's a whole assortment of different. There's one guy that maybe had an inappropriate relationship with someone that's underage, maybe a 15-year-old and the guy was 22 or something. And then there's also the guy that tried to abduct the child, or maybe the rapist. So you see a lot of different dynamics there, don't you?
Yes, it goes from the mad rapist on down to actually touching or fondling. And, depending on the age of touching and fondling, I have several offenders who are registering with a misdemeanor 3 sexual imposition.
Is there any common denominator with these guys? I mean, or is it just you never know, or those kind of things?
Well, I've seen a few people that I never would have expected that. And I mean, most people say that, and you just don't expect it. You never know. And most of the ones that I've dealt with are of the opinion they made a mistake, and they really would like to put this behind them. And they come in every time they're due to come in. They do everything they do. I had several people, when the 1,000 feet from a school went into effect, they sold houses that they owned and moved someplace else because of that. And then when the Supreme Court came back with their decision that they didn't have to, they had already done those things because they don't want the hassle. They want to get along. They want to do the things that they have to so they can complete their registration.
Is there some problems? Well, okay, let's think about how this works. Someone moves in to a neighborhood. So at that point, is there some notifications that you do, and how does that work?
Okay, if they're a Tier 3 or a sexual predator, or
and these are the more serious, right?
Yes, or a habitual offender that requires notification, everyone that lives within 1,000 feet will get a card that has their picture on it, has information about their victim, has information about when they were convicted, and it gives them some information. And the big thing that I really, so many people call and they'll say, well, a sexual predator moved in. And that's, in not definition, but that's a bad word for most people.
Sure. That you think about that as the rapist, the child rapist, somebody's going to be abducting your children.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons that that's what they call the classification under Megan's law.
Okay.
And, but people call all of them that, not just part of them. And so one of the first things I try to do is to explain to them the difference and give them some information, because, the sexual imposition people are misdemeanors. And so they haven't done near what the predators
right.
that are rapists have.
So this person really could be not dangerous.
Correct. And you talk to some of these people, and you don't always, unfortunately, our job is people lying to us is an occupational hazard. I've always said.
That's right.
And but I've had, for instance, some of the guys that they were actually living with their girlfriends in their parents' house. Well, to me, they should be charging the parents too, because they're complicit with that happening.
Sure.
They're giving a place for it to happen, and they're letting it happen. So, I mean, that's something that normally comes out to she gets pregnant or they get into a fight, and so then mom and dad want to do something. So that person certainly is not as dangerous as someone who has picked up a child and walked off with them.
Is there some things that a parent could do if they had someone that lived in their neighborhood that really was a predator? Is there some safety things that you would tell a parent out there? And I'm sure you get these calls sometimes.
Yeah.
And we might want to give your phone number in case somebody has a call. I know you're glad to talk to our citizens if they have any concerns or questions.
And I really encourage people to call me, not only with questions about, but if they hear or see someone where they're not supposed to be. Some of the people are, hanging around schools or something like that. I want to know that. If they're on probation or parole, we can get them involved, and they can really shorten their chain. And I've had them actually lock them up for a while just to give them a wake-up call to let them know that. So, but if anyone has any questions or comments or anything about what's going on, my direct line is 740-652-7250, and I welcome calls. I want people to call because I've had so many people call with bad information, and after we get done, they find out that it's not something that is quite as concerning as it was, based solely on having heard what I have to say about these people, because I do have quite a bit of information, and most of that information is public record.
And before we go off the air, we'll give our website, and we'll give that telephone number again. So if you're out there today and you're listening or watching, grab a pencil, grab a piece of paper, because we're going to give that number before we go off the air today. Today we have John Baumgardt, a deputy with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, takes care of our sex offenders, does a lot of great work in that venue. Now, the other part of the question before is, what can a parent do? If they have children that live in the neighborhood, there is a sex offender there, they've been notified, what do they need to tell their kids?
Well, my first suggestion is get a picture of them, print it off. I mean, you can go to the website and there's a color picture, print that information, show it to them. Tell them, say, look, if this guy comes around, you need to come home and tell us right away. Because, a lot of sex offenders, when they go after kids, they befriend them, and they kind of suck them in to the point where they think that they're really good friends. Well, I'm not saying that all of them are bad when they do that type of thing, but mom and dad certainly need to know that they're being befriended by this person, so they can keep an eye on them. But the big thing is if they see a picture of them, so they can say, look, if this guy comes to you, or this woman, because we do have female sex offenders, is that you should be letting mom and dad know about it. Because when you're around adults that you don't know and they're trying to be really nice to you, it sometimes can be a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, too, to keep in mind that a lot of times we hear about these things like it's the Catholic priest, or it's the teacher at school, it's the scout leader, it's the person that works at a Y or something, but the reality is it represents a very, very small group of our population, and most of these folks, whether they're working in a daycare, whether they're working in a Sunday school class with kids, are wonderful people that really are doing it for all the right reasons. And I think when a story happens, it makes national news, it's in the newspaper, and we're saying, wow, isn't this terrible? But the reality is this represents a very small group of our population. Most folks do a great job, but again, I think you have to be diligent. You have to be talking to your kids, right?
Right. That's really important, to talk with your kids, making sure they know who they are, and all the schools get information about the sex offenders. They have pictures of them. I've even had Pickerington actually send out letters about several of them. So there's a lot of good information out there, but there's a lot of people that misunderstand that information also. So it's very important to know the correct information, and that's one of the reasons I really encourage people to call me.
And again, give them your telephone number and the website, because on the Sheriff's Office website is a list of all of our sexual offenders, where they live, and this information. And also tell them how they can sign up if they want to be notified.
Right. Okay. If you go to our website, which is www.sheriff.fairfield.oh.us, and if you follow through, there's a lot of good information about the classifications and that. And then if you click to go to the list, it takes you to the Attorney General's website, And at that location, you can sign up for email notifications to sign up, so anytime a sex offender moves within whatever radius you set, you will get an email saying that they're there. And there's a lot of good information on there. I think there's a video about it also. So the other thing is to call me. And if you don't understand what you're reading, because sometimes you just about have to have a dictionary to understand some of the things in there. But give me a call. I'll be happy to explain all the questions you have. And if I can't give you an answer because it's something that's specific to that I need to talk with a prosecutor about, or I actually have a liaison person with the Attorney General's office who is an attorney, is one of the assistant attorney generals that provides me information all the time.
John, been a great couple segments. The last couple weeks we've had Deputy John Baumgardt with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office with us talking about sex offenders here in Fairfield County. Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go. And I do appreciate you, the listeners and the viewers, and certainly the folks at Time Warner and 90.9 letting me have a program like this, of venues, so we can get things out to the community on things that affect each and every one of you each and every day. Until next week, same time, same place. God bless. If you're out there driving, buckle up, and we'll see you right here next week.
There are so many fun things we all can do to be healthier, no matter who you are or where you are. So let's move.
Oh, here we go.
Let's stretch in the grass.
What a play!
Let's play tag.
Wow, unbelievable.
Let's jump up and down.
Oh, what a way to finish it.
And most of all, let's eat better so that we have the energy we need to play an hour a day, every day.
Everyone can play. Just go to letsmove.gov to learn more.